Oh, thank you. Okay, I am muted. Welcome to the Earning Curve Expert Panel Series. I'm Marianne Biangardi. I'm your moderator and host today. We have an excellent panel for you. We just jumped out of a double header, so for those of you who were in our first session, welcome back. We had a great conversation, and we're looking forward to this conversation as well. We've got an amazing lineup. The Earning Curve is a new platform and webinars where you all ask the questions. So send us your questions up in the chat box. The chat is the thought bubble icon. Just click that, and there'll be a screen. The right half of your screen will show up, and then you just type your questions in there, and we will get those answered for you. So today, our anchor panelists. The topic today is how to support salespeople out in the field. And our anchor panelist today is my good friend, Jennifer Bardot. She's the AVP over at Enterprise Bank. And one thing I love about Jennifer is her enthusiasm and energy. And she really takes care of her clients. She's all over it. If you call her, she will get back to you right away. She's a young mom, 3 young boys. She builds stuff all the time. She's an excellent carpenter, which I think is just super cool. Maybe because I would like to be more of that, but I'll call her and then, ask what she's doing. And she's like, yeah, I just constructed like a tree house for the boys, in like the last hour. And I'm like, how did you do that? So I just think she's amazing. She works super hard for her customers, and she makes you feel like you're her only client or the only contact important to her. So next up, we have Brian Busking, host and founder of St. Louis Podcast, the Leaders Podcast. He's also a business development manager for Cornerstone Employee Solutions. Brian is an avid networker. He believes in the power of giving and helping others to network for success. Brian and his wife, Allie, are expecting their first baby girl, and he has owned 35 cars since 2002. I mean, that's pretty cool. We need to find out makes and models of all those cars and how you possibly did that. Jason Stone, Engage Software. Jason is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Digital Strategy for Engage Software, where he has been the sole salesperson and primary source of revenue for 9 years. He's a true believer in the power of personal networks, particularly in developing them. He proposed to his wife of 16 years via a nationally aired Valentine's Day commercial for Kohl's department stores. That's really cool, and I'd love to find that commercial. It's on my to-do list after this. We once met Michael Jordan in passing at a Bulls playoff game. In his excitement, he told Michael to have a great game, even though the game had not started yet. So that's totally something I would do. JB Andrews. JB is with Stark & Associates. He has a unique ability to understand the communication gaps that often exist between generations within workforce that hinder business results. He was also very competitive in collegiate golf. He's an avid outdoorsman, specifically hunting, anything that flies, fishing, and golf. So welcome, everyone. And we are talking about ways to support salespeople in the field and how marketing can help today. Let's start. Start with you, Jennifer. Let's see. So we are talking about marketing strategies today. How has marketing helped you at different stages in the sales cycle?
I think marketing helps with, starting the relationship, drip campaigns as far as keeping the relationship and maintaining it. And it also highlights the customers that we really need to be talking to, because we have different scoring methods at Enterprise. So one story that I really like to share is a Pardot lead. So this was just someone that was exploring on our website. I had gotten the lead from our marketing department. They seemed as though they were really interested in our services. So I had an idea of which, different campaigns they had clicked on. So I just cold called them, set up a meeting, slowly build the relationship, and through different marketing tools that I have in my toolbox, I was really able to strengthen the relationship, show them the value that Enterprise brings, and kind of did it in my own way. And then eventually we secured that business. So that's the story that I really like, that Enterprise marketing team really helped us secure that business. So.
That's great. Can we get some other input from the panelists? Brian, can you weigh in on this?
Absolutely. I think, from a marketing perspective, my marketing department helps me get my name and my brand out there, right? I'm only one person and only can contact so many people in a given day and only network so hard in a given week. And I think the marketing department, is very vital for us to get who we are as an organization out there, what our services are that we offer. And I think the combination of a strong marketing department with a combination of a strong sales department can pretty much be unstoppable. And I think, the two go obviously hand in hand. It's very hard to you can be the best salesman in the world, but if you don't have a marketing team behind you that are getting your name and your brand out there in the presence of the community that you work in, sometimes can be very challenging.
Absolutely. JB, can you weigh in on this too? We'll just get everyone's point of view up front. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you for that. When we're looking at marketing and sales, it's common that there's a disconnect. The marketing, they're mad at the sales team because they're doing something wrong. They're always wanting leads. The sales team's mad at marketing because they're not getting good enough leads. Well, the main thing is when you look at the two aspects, in essence, sales is a one-to-one conversation. Marketing is one-to-many. So even when you're networking, you're marketing. So when you think about it, we have to have a common language between the two. And right now with COVID, if we don't have a common language and we're not utilizing marketing from social media to social selling to what's out on our website, you're leaving money on the table because you're not reaching the amount of prospects and the people you could or should be getting in front of in today's world.
Absolutely. That's good advice. Jason, can you weigh in on this too?
I can if I can unmute. There we go. I would say the same. I'd second a lot of what's been said. I can tell a story of a lead recently where 4 years ago, marketing reached out to this person, and by keeping tabs on her and keeping her in communications, she came around finally 4 years later, and we got to have a great conversation that's now leading to a proposal. So thank God that they're there so that I don't have to keep tabs on things from 4 years ago. I do think, as JB said, that the important thing is to have a coherent message. We have the luxury at Engage, being a smaller company, that I get to sit on the marketing committee. So I get to bring them the conversations that I have so they can incorporate my communications into their copywriting and the way they create our messaging.
Thank you, Jason. Let me check the chat window here really quick. Oh, we've got one here. What is the most effective piece of sales collateral marketing can create for sales that marketing often gets wrong? Jennifer, did you want to talk about that?
I love our one-pager. I feel like it highlights all the attributes that we really want to focus on, and it just shows our value. And it's an easy stat. I feel like I'm a professional athlete, and they see my batting average, because I show up with my one-pager, and they kind of get some insight as far as who we are and what we're about. So I lead with my one-pager.
Brian, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I'll echo what Jennifer said. Sometimes I think marketing collateral can be, fantastic leave behinds. I think what sometimes marketing wants to do is have brochures where there's a lot of information inside of there. And I think a lot of individuals don't necessarily have the time to sit down and read an entire brochure. So a one pager that hits the highlights of what it is that you're, promoting or you're selling. I think statistics are always great to have. Everybody loves stats. Everybody wants to know, what your ROI is or anything along those lines. So if you can provide stats inside of a marketing collateral, I think it's always very important.
Yeah, that's great. That's good advice. So what I'm getting to is that sometimes, marketing does want to put too much out there, maybe a really large trifold brochure, and really just need that one page. You don't want to give away everything up front anyway. You need another reason to follow up, and nobody really wants to read all that. So that may be one of the things marketing does seem to be getting wrong. What do you do when someone has a good lead score, they're engaging with your content, et cetera, and they seem to like a good prospect, but when sales reaches out, they do not engage, nothing but cricket? Jason or JP?
So, hey, Brandon. Thanks for coming. I guess my answer would be if they're not engaging, they're not ready to engage. Keep marketing, keep marketing. I guess you run the risk that you have bad contact information, but if they keep engaging, that's tipping their hand somewhat. There will be people that are just going to take advantage of your free content, and there's nothing you can really do about that, myself included. Apologies to the financial advisor that keeps sending me good stuff. I'm never going to hire the guy. I'm just not a good, right? I'm not a good candidate for him. But that would be my answer.
And honestly, I would say something very similar to Jason of just when you're looking at leads, at the end of the day, the statistic is right around 15% of leads actually move forward to net new business because there may not actually be a priority. There may not be a need. Someone internally might have been tasked with looking up your company or looking into, we need a new CRM. We might be looking into new banking needs, new software. There isn't any validity to why they're doing it. So it's just having an understanding that some will, some won't, so what, who's next, but truly having a cadence behind how and what are you doing to follow up with those leads? What does that sound like? What does it look like? And honestly, when do we close book? Is it after 2 touches, 4, 6, building that down to having a concrete plan?
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in. I'd just like to jump in here real quick. I think Jason or JB hit the nail on the head. I think you got to know when enough is enough. You know, if they're not engaged with you, it's okay to just walk away and find the next one. You know, something that took me a while to learn was I thought everybody needed my product, everybody needed my solution, right? And I got to the point where I was tired of beating my head over the wall over, you know, somebody who was not being engaged back with me. And it's okay just to turn the page and find somebody else because there's a lot more prospects out there than just that one who you might think would be a good fit. So I think that JB made a great point there.
And I would add too, it's all about timing. You have to really be observant about if it's a good fit for your client and if it's the timing's right or not. So I'm echoing after everything that they've said. I agree.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. We've got some more up here in the chat. So why do you think so many sales teams have such an inherent distrust of marketing? What can marketing teams do to break these barriers? Jennifer?
That's a good one. I feel like we were kind of talking about earlier, there's so much information because they want to make sure we have tons of tools in our toolbox. So I think essentially it's really important for the salesperson to read your audience and make sure you have the right tools in your toolbox. You're not pulling them all out. So essentially sales teams, I guess they may have a little bit of frustration, you know, when they have all of these resources, but they're not really sure which ones to bring. But I think it comes down to how it's 2 tables that are selling. It's the salesperson and it's the marketing team. You have to collaborate and know what to bring. I would say as far as the barriers is probably, you know, just going by the book and just bringing everything and walking through everything, even though your audience is dying on the other side and they're not engaged at all. So you have to be authentic with your delivery and make sure the pieces that you're covering are really relevant to your buyer. So I don't know.
JB, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I would say, honestly, that Jennifer nailed it from the side of, like what I mentioned, there's typically a disconnect between marketing and sales. So when we're looking at today's world with COVID, the sales team or the sales individuals, they know what their prospects are experiencing. Marketing somewhat does, they're not in the field. So there has to be communication on what is going on in the field, what are they experiencing, but as well, what do the salespeople see that are working and what do the marketing people see that are working? Because again, they have to collaborate. Because if they're not, I mean, you're honestly, you're just going to struggle to get the results. But if you get that collaboration and you utilize the platforms that are in front of you, you're then going to start to see the traction start to grow because it's going to be relevant to the people you're looking to get in front of.
Thank you. That's perfect. Ryan or Jason, do you want to add anything to that? Or?
So this is trickier for me to answer because I serve with the marketing team, so that communication is pretty good. I guess if I came up with an example, it would be when we inadvertently, going back to an earlier question about what's a common marketing mistake, and that is that we get the voice wrong. So we start getting so excited about how great we are, we stop communicating how it affects the buyer, so the you messaging, and making sure that what we're saying to them is in addressing their needs. And so when we misstep, when we do have, and I'm blaming myself too because I serve on the marketing committee, when we're getting leads, it's if we miss the opportunity to address their pain points outright instead of crowing about how good we are at what we do.
Thank you, Jason. I'm reading ahead here. We have another question. How many times have you heard of this? Marketing sends what they think is a hot lead, but when I get it, the prospect tells me something totally different. How does that even happen?
I think, from my perspective, I think, what marketing thinks is a hot lead is somebody who showed a little bit of interest either on a website or on some kind of a marketing collateral. What I consider a hot lead is when somebody says, I'm buying, and I just don't know who I'm buying, right? And so there's a big difference between somebody having some interest and somebody who's in buying mode, right? And so I think sometimes there's a disconnect there. But, I'll take a hot lead from a marketing person anytime because that means somebody's at least interested. And then, to Jennifer's point, JB's point, I put them in some kind of a drip campaign. If they don't engage with me on that first conversation and they say, we're not really interested right now, that's fine. They can just go into, HubSpot or whatever it is, and then I'll follow up with them at a later time. But, I think there's just a disconnect what's considered a hot lead for a salesperson, what's considered a hot lead for a marketing person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see.
So Brian, I actually just saw something that kind of spoke to that I thought was pretty good. It's the difference between being curious and considering a purchase. So marketing gets excited by curiosity, sales gets excited by considering a purchase, and there's tells for considering a purchase, and they are specifically requesting a demo, asking for a bid, or flat out indicating the desire to purchase.
Yeah, I'll just tell a quick example. I got a lead from my marketing department yesterday who said that this particular client was ready to leave their current HR outsourcing organization and they were moving to a different one. I called the individual and she says, well, we're just trying to figure out what else is out there. So there's a big difference between I'm moving and, well, I'm just seeing what else is out there. Now, still, I'm not saying it's not a bad lead, but there obviously is a difference.
And to piggyback off of what both of you said is it's still the same process. Even if it's a hot lead, you still got to take it at step one, nurture the relationship, build a rapport, and then go to the value in your sales. So it's still the same sales cycle too, even if it is a hot lead.
Okay, it looks like I've got some more questions here popping up. Where are companies that are growing today with COVID focus? Where are companies that are growing today with COVID focused? Maybe we need to clarify that.
Does that mean like what companies are having success in COVID today?
I feel like that's what it is. Yeah, we can get a clarification, but yeah, let's go with that.
I mean, obviously this is something that's going to depend and probably differ on each person you talk to. Obviously the companies that I'm seeing that are growing right now is a lot in the manufacturing, a lot in the construction. Those are the two areas that I've seen. Manufacturing and supply chains back to normal for the most part. Companies are growing, but I'd say the main companies you're seeing that are growing right now are the ones that have realized, COVID or not, they're going to have to change what they're doing today to stay in track with what they're wanting to accomplish. So whether that is their strategy on how they're going to grow their business or the structure on how they're going to manage to it, they're realizing that's going to have to change, and they're going to have to become more effective or maybe identify a new marketplace or take a new product to market in order to stay on track with what they were hoping to accomplish. But mainly what I'm seeing is manufacturing, distribution, and construction has been doing great.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think, I don't know if anybody's tried to buy a hot tub or a swimming pool this summer, but good luck with that. Aspen Spa is a local hot tub manufacturer in South City. My wife and I went there this summer to try a hot tub, and they were, normal year they sell about 600 tubs. This year they've got 2,000 sold already. So, think about it from the perspective of what have people been doing during COVID. They've been home, they've been doing home projects, they've been buying stuff for their home. Those are the types of things that people are doing. IT, obviously IT right now, everybody's working remotely. So, those organizations need support for the individuals who are working home and working remotely. And then another big one, in my opinion, right now is medical research. So there, I just brought a client on not too long ago that's in the research industry for medical. I mean, the research in the medical industry right now is obviously booming. Everybody's trying to come up with a COVID-19 vaccine. therapeutics, things along those lines. So those are all hot markets right now, in my opinion.
We also have a follow-up here for Brian, since I've got you anyway, Brian. This is from the earlier question. Marketing often seems more interested in building hype, and as a salesperson, I am more interested in crafting a solution for my clients. How do I work with marketing to reconcile these two competing priorities?
Yeah, great question. I think you need to look back at what are the solutions that you've sold lately? What have been the problems with the clients that you've brought on lately that your solution has solved? And then go to marketing saying, hey, these are the last 3 clients that I brought on board. This is what their issue was. This is the problem that our solution solved for them. Develop some case studies, right? And then build the hype around wherever those solutions are. That way there is, this language going back and forth about what solutions that I solved as a salesperson in the field, and now let's build some marketing around that, because there's got to be more people out there that are probably dealing with the exact same issue as these past 3 clients.
Okay, let's go on here to another one. We've got more questions popping up. What are your go-to marketing tools when pitching a prospect? Jennifer, you mentioned the one-pager. Is there anything else?
Well, generally, I like to give a little bit of information about the history of the bank, too, about who we are, why we're around, why we work with business owners, how we're an entrepreneurial-driven bank. So I like the history piece, but a lot of the times buyers are already knowing what we're all about, which is why we're having a conversation in the first place. So I ask a lot of probing questions that really understand what they're looking for from me. Is it a credit card? Is it a line of credit? Is it moving their operational account? And then once I know from there, then I usually follow up with some other resources, or I'll have some stuff on hand. And especially now that we're virtual, it makes it super easy because I can share my screen. I can walk through these different, resources right there. It's actually made selling a lot more convenient because I don't have to show up with my folder and my briefcase and pull it out. It's right there. So
I'll add to that real quick. I think because we're virtual right now, I think there needs to be a pretty big digital presence. So if your proposal is a PDF that you're trying to show through a GoToMeeting or a Zoom meeting and it's shrunk down very small, you may want to look at some other kind of software that you can provide your proposal in a much more virtual or digital setting. So that way the prospect on the other end of the meeting can see that better. Same thing for marketing collateral. If all your marketing collateral is PDFs and it's not forming correctly to the computer screen when you're trying to present that information, that can be a challenge as well. So I think right now digitally is very important, especially in the world we're in right now.
And so I'll go next on that because, of course, that's my space, the digital space. I'm biased about websites because that's a core of what we do. And I would add that some value that I'm seeing, I hope this ties back to the question, is this idea of not just having the website, but having the back end for the marketing automation to see what they're engaging with as a salesperson, to go back and see, well, what pieces did they click on? What things are they reading? That can be really helpful to start a conversation, to have that insight.
JB, do you want to add anything? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. What are your go-to marketing tools?
So when we're looking at go-to marketing tools for a presentation or for proposing, we're not big on presentations personally. So I guess we're really just practicing what everybody else is doing, but also just catering to your market, understanding who you're in front of. That some people are going to be visual, some people are going to be more auditory, some people are going to be more kinesthetic, and trying to cater all of that around to what you are proposing, what you are presenting, and framing that up with your prospects of really the best proposal or the best presentation is one you co-create with your prospect. So instead of going in with your pre-slated, presentation of what you're going to do, go in there with a blank slate and build that out with your prospect. I think that's the best thing you can do in that world. But yeah, is there anything specifically, Brian or Jason, that you're seeing in that world that would make sense, or that might be able to help some of the folks that are attending?
In terms of presentations digitally?
Yeah, I guess of those tools that you're using from a presenting or proposing side of things.
Yeah, I think, I've been using Zoom for presentations for a long time, but to your point, my presentations tend to be collaborative in the sense that I have the client walking me through their problem. So I'm spending ideally as much time listening and oftentimes with them sharing their website or sharing what they already have to talk through and sort of document on my end what's the real problem here so that I can reply in kind. I do always follow up with a walkthrough if we're doing a quoted pitch, say, and I want to walk them through again so that I can make sure that I'm hitting on all cylinders. And oftentimes I find that I'll get lucky and it gets deeper buy-in because I'm getting them to nod to what I've responded to. Yeah, that is what we talked about. And I find Zoom conducive to it. So I guess that's a luxury for me that we happen to be using it really heavily now.
Perfect.
We've been doing a lot of demos, especially with our credit card and merchant processing. I feel like just like you were saying, you get the buy-in, but you also get all of their answers, answers to the question instantly. I love this live platform because there is no lag, and it allows everything to move a little bit more smoothly. So the demos have been really helpful.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted again. I have another question here. So it says, why do you believe marketing is so intent on incorporating company history and about us into our sales presentation? Time is short and the customer doesn't care, and it seems to take up time. Why can't I just get what I want to deliver, the sales presentation that I want, and just deliver that? I guess this is more on communication and trying to convince marketing of what you actually want. Jennifer, do you want to say anything about that?
I think we've kind of all hinted at it. It all comes down to collaboration and making sure there's communication between the marketing team and the sales team. I agree. They don't want to hear what we have to offer. We are supposed to be there to learn about them and what their problems or issues are so we can provide the solution. So, yeah, I think that's hilarious. Great question.
I think it's just a standard, right? Like you're just used to doing it, and it's the way we've always done it, so we throw it in there. There's probably some sense of, if you keep it short, legitimacy. Like, hey, in Engage's case, we've been around 21 years, so we talk about the company history in some respects, but we go through it really fast. So, I don't think it's an imperative.
Well, and I'll add to that. I think you got to read your audience, right? If you're sitting in front of somebody who knows your organization and has been, in our case, we've been around St. Louis for quite a long time. If they know who Cornerstone is, then I'm not going to spend nearly as much time as if I'm trying to sell somebody who's in Kansas City or Indianapolis who may not know us as well. But I think it's vital to explain who you are as an organization. I'm not going to just go buy any kind of product or solution if I don't know who the organization is or kind of who they are, what their values are, right? And so I think you got to read your audience and then spend as much time on it as you think is valid.
Okay, thank you guys. Sorry, I'm going back and forth with unmute. I heard some background noise here. So let's see. We have another. It's kind of a different subject. What is some advice you would give someone looking to get more connected in St. Louis, like marketing and networking?
I'll start.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'll start here. So my advice would be to just get out there, right? There's people in St. Louis who are more than happy to help you get connected. JB Andrews is one of those. Jennifer Bardot is another one of those. Jason is another one, right? Myself, I'm more than happy to meet with just about anybody, have a conversation in regards to what it is that they do, what they're looking to do, and how I can help them. I'm a huge believer in giving, and I don't ever really ask anything in return. If I can help somebody meet somebody that helps their day or helps their business, and I feel like I've done my job for the day. There's a lot of people in St. Louis that do that, and you don't have to look very hard to find those people. Go to a networking event. Walk in the door, find somebody that seems to be social, connect with them, and ask them to grab a cup of coffee. That's the number one thing you can do. Just ask them to grab a cup of coffee. In today's world, we're a little bit different because we're all virtual and all digital, but there's still networking events that are being taken place from a virtual standpoint. Just put yourself out there.
I mean, I think to piggyback off of that, Brian, those were all great points. I think the key thing is honestly looking at who your ideal prospect is, and then look at what are other industries or markets that are servicing or selling to that ideal prospect, and then reach out to those type of people. So like specifically for me, I work a lot with commercial bankers, commercial insurance, software, payroll, accounting, and lawyers. Those are all my referral partners. So when you start to identify those areas, be gutsy, and honestly, like what Brian said, get out there, but then have an ask for people. Ask them like, hey, I'm looking to get more connected. I'm looking to meet personal insurance people. I'm looking to meet a business lawyer. I'm looking to meet a software company. When you put it out there, people are going to be more in tune to help you, but as well, you're going to be more targeted. So being gutsy and just getting out there is a big thing, but have a strategy and honestly be structured with what you're doing, because that will just help you in the long run.
And I'll just say my strategy is totally different. I prefer not to lead with the ask. I want to earn the ask. So I always go and try to go above and beyond as far as, like Brian was saying, helping. I fill my bucket up when I can make introductions and I know they're quality introductions. So I feel like being bold, being authentic, and being genuine leads sales right now. And I feel like if you really want to increase your sales, you have to put out, you have to, generate more giving opportunities and introductions and networking events. So just be bold and helpful.
I will second all three of those. That's absolutely sound advice. If you're not a natural giver, if it's not your inclination, I recommend you read Bob Burg's The Go-Giver. If you haven't read it, and if you're in sales, I'll be surprised, but How to Win Friends and Influence People was an incredibly influential read for me about, doing for others to have it come back to you. And I would add, I've had a rather unique experience to have stumbled across the association world at a higher level. I sit on the SLSAE, which is essentially the association leaders in St. Louis, and so I've been exposed to all of the area associations. In your field, whatever that field may be, I guarantee you there's an association. There is an association for everything. And if you want to network your way in, that is a great way. It's simply a matter of raising your hand. You don't have to necessarily be a big paid sponsor, even though you're selling to that audience. You can also just get involved, and they will welcome you. A lot of these organizations just need the volunteers, need the help.
And I guess that's the last thing that I'll add in, because everything everyone says has been great, is that when you're looking at getting out there and getting connected, you need to look at it kind of like professional dating. Not everybody's going to be the right matchup for you. You may not blend on industries. You may not blend on personalities. So it does take time. You're not going to get that immediate gratification. But if you stay consistent and committed to the behavior of meeting with those people, and like we all said, having that giver's gain mentality, I'll promise you'll start to see those results.
Well, and to JB's point, it doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just start networking and then a year later you're getting a ton of referrals. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. And you just got to put forth the energy towards doing it.
It is true. I like what you all are saying, and it is. And the more people I'm connecting with lately on LinkedIn, just to add this in there, if I'm getting introductions, I'm much more. Definitely, we're all busy, but that's in the front of my to-do list to say, hey, I need to actively make these people introductions because I'm getting a lot from them, right? So you're by default going to get more. The more you get, the more you get. We've got some more questions popping in here. We have a great relationship with our marketing team. This is good to know because we've been getting some negative comments. How do we leverage that great relationship to be more effective in front of our customers? What should we prioritize? Brian, do you want to start? Or then maybe Jason? Or Jason, want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in. Well, Jason, go ahead.
So all I was going to say is I think we said before, which is just communicate. And if you have a great relationship, that communication should go easily. In terms of prioritizing, that I don't know if I can speak to that off the cuff. Brian, you answer, and let me see if I can come up with a good answer to that.
Well, I was just going to add that I think communication is everything. Marketing people aren't salespeople, and salespeople generally most of the time aren't marketing people. I am not a creative person. That's just not in my system. But I tell you what, I can talk to a brick wall all day long, right? That's the nature of who I am. And so I think there's got to be a very strong line of communication there between the marketing department and yourself. and figuring out what message you're trying to deliver, and then prioritizing it there, in that order.
I would say just going off that, when we're looking at marketing and sales and what we should prioritize our clients and prospects' needs. Prioritize those, market to those needs, and sell to those needs. Because if you marry that, it's like what they're saying, it's that constant communication that then if they're marketing what's going on in today's world that's relevant and we're selling to it, you're just overall going to gain traction.
Yeah, I really like to talk with my marketing team and share with them our success stories so then they can kind of gauge what's working, what's not. And then, you know what, they get a little bit of joy seeing the results of all of their efforts too. So again, it comes down to collaboration and just making sure everybody's on the same page. So.
Okay, let's see. Let's go to another question here. What can we do to control our business with COVID impacting so much of it?
I can jump in. I think you got to control what you can control, right? I mean this with all due respect to everybody on this panel and everybody listening. I think a lot of people over the last 4 or 5 months have used COVID as somewhat of an excuse when it comes to sales and marketing. My pipeline's dead because of COVID. I'm not selling anything because of COVID. And what I would tell you is you need to retrain your mindset, you need to retrain your thought, and you need to go find prospects that are booming due to COVID, right? And you just got to have the right mindset to control what you can control. If you sit back and say, well, I'm not selling anything because COVID-19 has impacted my pipeline, I think you should reconsider, well, how can I not let COVID-19 impact my pipeline? And how can I go find the customers who are not being negatively impacted by this? Are there some customers that have been negatively impacted by COVID-19? Absolutely. My father's has a small business in Edwardsville, Illinois. He's been impacted by it. I have family, friends who have been impacted by whether it's restaurants or things along those lines. But then retrain your thought process and marketing strategy to go after clients who are still being able to run their business in an efficient manner. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think it changes your approach. Like on Enterprise's website, we have a resource tab. So for all those businesses that I know who are struggling, I actively reach out to them and I share these grants, all of these resources that I'm aware of. Even if they didn't qualify for the PPP, there's other opportunities out there to still give them hope. So you have to retrain your brain and stop making excuses.
And you see what Jennifer just did there? She's helping. And see, this right back to what we said to do before. And the other thing is there was a piece that just came out of the Harvard Business Review that I thought was really interesting, which was essentially suggesting that if you invest now is actually, historically speaking, one of the best times to invest in marketing. That because at the end of the day, this thing's going to end eventually. And less like when I lived through the 2009 real estate crisis as a home builder, we didn't know when the end of the tunnel was. So I didn't want to invest in any more marketing and I got lucky because it was years and years and years later. This one probably not going to be 5 years from now that people start reinvesting in what you're selling. So if you really can't twist your head around it, invest in your marketing. I think you'll find that if you can't get it this quarter, at least from what I'm hearing, Q4, Q1, 2021 are looking pretty good. People are optimistic.
I like that. I hope you're right, Jason. And I think you are. I think we're all coming back. That's my positive vibe. We have another question here. We are a small business in a technical field and outsource our marketing. We spend a lot of time explaining our business to our marketing company. How can we close that language gap? Jason, I think maybe that'd be a good one for you as well.
Sure. So here's what I can say as somebody who does digital marketing for outside companies. It is our goal to better understand your business. We certainly want to know your business. That's shared. We will never know your business like you do. So you'll forgive us because we are not in the field with you that little bit. That shared, I think because you're in the field, much like we would say sales to marketing, just keep that communication open on what you're experiencing, what's resonating, and if their marketing company is good at communication, they should get you there.
Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I'll just weigh in. I think it goes, I hate to say this, but it goes back to communication. I feel like the more you can communicate to your marketing company about, what solution or what, issues you've solved with the last 3 clients you brought on, or what you're dealing with your current prospects that you're working with, and you keep that line of communication open, hopefully that gap gets closed. And, and unfortunately, sometimes not every marketing company is the best fit for your individual business. And so if that gap doesn't close over time, it may be time to reevaluate your marketing company.
Here, I'll practice what I preach. I know he's on this call, so Brandon Towle of Words That Matter is a guy to reach out to him to grab a cup of coffee. He's good at technical stuff.
There you go. Okay, so you're going to get some calls there, Brandon. Let's see. We've got another question here. Sorry, I'm actually reading one that we've already done. Let's not do that again. What are some strategies that you can put in, or we can put in place to help out someone just starting out in sales? So what kind of advice do you guys have if someone's just starting?
I don't mind starting there. So advice for someone who's starting in sales, so if you're someone who's managing them, you've got to have a roadmap and a game plan. For one, how you're going to manage and hold them accountable, but 2, what does success mean for them? So physically, what do they have to do on a daily and weekly basis to meet your expectations? What does that look like? What do you have to do from a manager so you don't micromanage them, so you're not just sitting over their shoulder looking at Jane or John, what the heck are you doing and are you closing deals? No, if you build that game plan, because then you're helping them see, here's what I got to do to accomplish this goal, whether it's go to these events, have this many conversations, it makes it a lot more feasible and attainable for that salesperson, and it makes it realistic. It's not like you're just giving them, here's your quota, push them off the edge of the cliff, go out there and be successful. It's a team effort. You're working together. I guess if you're just a salesperson and you're new, hone in on a few, maybe 3 things you want to do daily that will help you get that win. And that win for a lot of us today is a conversation with a decision maker. So what 3 key activities do you need to do daily to help you get that win? Whether it's cold calls, whether it's social media selling, whether it's asking for referrals, whether it's events, whatever it is, what are those key events you got to be doing to help you fill that pipeline and get that W?
That's good advice. Does anybody else want to weigh in there?
Sure, I'll weigh in. I'm a very avid networker. I do a lot of networking. Obviously, it's been impacted a little bit by COVID-19, but I've continued to do a lot of virtual networking. And so my advice would be to get on LinkedIn, make sure your LinkedIn profile looks smooth, professional. And I would, to JB's earlier point, find individuals on LinkedIn who are selling into the industries that are good fits for you. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, ask them to grab a Zoom coffee or a GoTo coffee or whatever virtual learning platform that you're currently utilizing, and just start networking. That'd be the first thing first couple things I would tell you to do. But I think it starts on LinkedIn. Once we get out of the pandemic that we're in, I think just going to your local chamber, just starting getting connected in the community that you kind of work in and live in would be the pieces of advice I would give.
I agree with that. Thank you, JB and Brian. Let's all share a story that when marketing assisted with your sale. That was a request.
So is this referring to like marketing got me the deal, or marketing actually aided me in closing the deal?
I think they assisted with your sale. So, I would assume it was in reference to maybe, they got you the lead, and I don't know. Actually, that's a good point. I'm not sure.
So a recent success story in that realm. So I use the heck out of LinkedIn, we have a company LinkedIn, a company Facebook, and then our website. We recently got some testimonials professionally done from long-term clients. So it's a video. They're good 30-second, minute-long videos. We started putting those out on LinkedIn. And what ended up happening was actually someone I had never met before, who's an owner of a manufacturing company, reached out to me based on the fact that they love what the company does that was in the testimonial. They were like, I had no clue you work with ABC Company. I love what they do. If you're working with them, we should have a conversation. So I would just say from the marketing efforts of us getting that testimonial together and consistently posting those has aided me not only bring on board clients that want testimonials, because then they can watch that and talk to my clients, but as well help open new doors for me to gain those conversations.
I use that strategy too. I always feel like it's a stronger lead-in and it builds more rapport and trust when it's not coming from me, when it's coming from my fellow friends, clients, relationships in the community. So I use those testimonials heavily too, JB.
I'll just add here, as was mentioned in the beginning of this, I started a podcast here in St. Louis called STL Leaders. I started that back in early June, and the reason I started that podcast was really the point of it was to give a voice to the local leaders we have in our community. What has transpired from that, though, is I have people reaching out to me that I never in my dreams thought I would have a conversation with, asking to have a conversation with me in regards to the podcast. So it's opened doors for me that normally wouldn't have been open. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody go start a podcast because it's not as easy as it may seem to do that. My point is, think outside the box. Come up with something unique that you can do to help get exposure for yourself or your business. I think it can be very valuable.
Brian, somebody actually has a question about what prompted you to start the St. Louis Leaders the podcast. Yeah,
great question. So if you listen to my podcast, my father was a small business owner in Edwardsville, Illinois. He had owned two businesses. One was a barbershop, one was a property management company. And I had the opportunity of going to the barbershop and his office weekly or daily, actually, and meeting other small business owners across Edwardsville. And so I value what a small business owner can do in our community. I feel like we as individuals in our community, we elect leaders, but necessarily those leaders might not necessarily be the people who actually lead our community. I feel like our economy is based off those individuals who run those small businesses in St. Louis. And so I wanted to give a voice to those leaders and learn from their leadership, how you can be a better leader, how you can be a better manager, how you can, lead from within your organization, motivate your team. And so I decided to start the podcast to give a voice to those local leaders in St. Louis. We've had some great guests on the show. We got some great ones coming up next month, but it gives them a voice to really share with us as the St. Louis community how to be a good leader.
That's great. And if anybody hasn't seen the podcast, it is fantastic. So you should definitely tune in. We've got another question here. What are some strategies that you can put in? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We've already read that one. What am I doing? For all panelists, if you had to bullet point a list, what are the 3 most important things I should be asking from my marketing department, which will help me to close sales? Jason, do you want to start? Well,
of course, sure. Yeah. I'll answer it. So I've got 2. We'll see if by the time I'm done talking, I can come up with 3. Let me first correct. I said Words That Matter. I got Brandon's company wrong. Let me correct and say Words Have Impact. WordsHaveImpact.com is his business. I apologize, Brandon. I'll get it right next time, I promise. To answer the question, I think if you don't already have a web presence, get one yesterday. During COVID, they're a must-have. I think after that, I love the idea, at least in my world, once we've given a quote, of having some sort of leave behind document to sort of tie it in a bow. So I guess you would call that a proposal, where it kind of backs up all the problems they have, reiterates their problems, and then aligns it with how you can actually solve those problems. And then in the middle, I would add a leave behind for the guy who isn't ready to buy today. But that it's something you can still leave to make it settle in that he might be ready someday in the future.
I would add a leave behind, a one-pager of some kind. I would make sure that your message is strong. You know who you are as an organization and what solution you have. So make sure your message is extremely strong. And then I would have some testimonials or references. I get asked all the time, do you have a client in this industry that you work with? Have a few of those that are go-to that you can share with your prospects.
And I think just on top of that, having a target list specifically of companies you're looking to get in front of, list of 10, 20 companies. Marketing can work on that, or you can do it yourself, but bringing that along with that one-pager, along with some of the other stuff that Jason spoke about, it's just going to raise your odds of getting in front of those companies you're seeking to.
Yeah, in Enterprise, obviously, we have amazing marketing, and Enterprise University is also a platform that we can use for bringing in small businesses to showcase their business and what they're doing, as well as helping provide resources to our customers and just community members in general. So there's tons of resources that our marketing department provides, but once again, it comes down to helping. We're providing solutions just tomorrow on succession planning. We have a tutorial we're putting together. It's a free event. Anybody can join. We did one on spend management. So our marketing department has really evolved and made more of a presence virtually, and I think that's been a really strong for our company. So.
Thank you all. Okay, we've got another one here. What are some marketing tools you can use as a sales professional to stay in touch while waiting on the right time for a buyer? I guess this would be like a newsletter or things you can send out, maybe Jason or Jason.
Well, when I hear that question, I'm hearing the word tools, so of course I'm immediately going to go to software. I guess a few specific tools you could use are HubSpot. If you're not a HubSpot user, if HubSpot's out of your budget, there's a good product called SharpSpring that we use internally, which is essentially a CRM. And if you're in sales, I certainly hope you have a CRM and you're not using Excel or like a whiteboard to track all your sales. You're using something a little more detailed. The benefits being that it allows you to visualize your funnel. It allows you to, through the marketing automation platform, stay in touch with those contacts that you should be touching on the regular. Basically, that software can assist you where your memory fails you, and I've found it to be invaluable.
JB, were you going to add something to that?
I mean, quite honestly, where my head first went immediately was CRM. I mean, just because that's just something how much that software has grown over the years of we used to have a Rolodex to then, like what Jason said, people started using spreadsheets and stuff. CRMs make it so simple. Helps you stay in front of people. You can even automate emails, automate outreach, all through your CRM. So I would say something that links over, that's probably the best, because as well, if you're diligent with what you put in your CRM, the marketing team is going to know all your conversations you're having, the companies you're meeting with, why you're meeting with them, why they're coming on board because of the issues they're having, all of these things, but then there's that clarity overall. So my number one recommendation would be having some sort of client relations management system that you're using today.
So once you put everything into the CRM, how often are you guys following up? I mean, do you set reminders for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess this depends first off, is this someone cold? I've never met him before. Is this a lead? Have we been introduced? Have we met at a networking event? It all kind of varies. But kind of a rule for thumb for me is typically if I've spoken with them before, I'll ask them like, hey, are you okay with that, with the fact that I might check in with you in 3 months because I know things can change. Outside that, rule of thumb is I typically just follow that once a quarter. Once a quarter, I'll touch base 3 to 6 times via, phone, email, all these other aspects. But just because things can change so rapidly. I mean, look how much different the world was 6 months ago and how many things have shifted in businesses. So for me, it's about every 3 months long. I wait 6 months for when I'm going to follow up and kind of see what, if anything, has shifted.
Great, thanks. Okay, so we're kind of getting close on time. We've got about 6 minutes left. Maybe we can all do like a final wrap up, thoughts that you want to leave the audience with. Brian, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, be happy to. So my leave behind would be networking. I would get involved in some way, shape, or form, whether that is networking right now, whether that's to connect with your local network, whether that's finding a local networking group that you can get a part of, but start networking, start getting connected. And I agree with Jason, read the Go Giver book. If you haven't done that, The Giver's Gain. You got to have a giving mentality from networking to pay off. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you're looking for a quick sale or a quick networking is not the case. But I will tell you, I started networking probably 7 years ago, and it's changed my life. I wouldn't know the people on this panel right now if it wasn't been for networking. So my advice is start networking.
Mary Ann, you're muted, but if you want, I'll go ahead and jump in.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know how I did that. Okay, go ahead. JB, can you do some final thoughts?
I mean, if we're looking at, honestly, overall, how can we find success with marketing and sales? It's having a plan that is unified. So having a plan on, what is my go-to market strategy? How am I targeting my market? What does that look like? What's my geographical scale? And then from sales, same thing. Who am I targeting? How am I targeting them? What are we holding my team accountable to or myself to? And then what's our goal? What are we seeking to accomplish? If you marry those two, right there, you know what you're doing, you have your plan, you know how you're going to do it, and you know what you're working towards. From there, it's just marketing and sales being consistent on what you said you were going to do. So at the end of the day, have a plan for both marketing and sales that aligns with the growth of your company or your own personal profession.
And I'll transition right from that to say, and we've heard the word over and over and over again on the call, so clearly it's important, is communicate. Some of the questions imply sort of an animosity between sales and marketing. We are on the same team. I mean, literally in our business, we're on the same team. But there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be talking through and just the same way I would ask of a client, going back and expressing, here are the problems I'm facing. The leads you're bringing me aren't lining up, but why? Help them understand it. They can pivot. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and for me, I would say reflect. I would look at your sales funnel, see what's working, see what's not working, repeat when you have wins. And then, like I said earlier, that's the marketing department and share what your wins look like so then we know where to focus our energies and what to avoid. So really being selective as your time and your use. And like JB said, having a plan in place and being strategic as far as your target list every day and making sure you're using the right tools. And then obviously staying bold and network. Like Brian said, I wouldn't have met JB or Brian if I wouldn't have started networking. So, and same with Jason. So I feel like it's just a collaboration. It all comes down to the team approach. We're all on the same team and making sure our visions align. So.
Thank you all, and I would echo what they all said. I'm a huge believer in networking as well. This is how I made all these great connections. I know all these panelists and love networking events. Sadly, they're not going on very much right now, but they'll open up soon. I'm convinced of this. People are itching to get back out, and I think we're starting to get a handle on COVID. So we all want to know, what did you find value in today? If you guys could shoot us a message on LinkedIn, say something about it, reach out, send us a message, post something about how great if you found value today. We hope you did. Here's our contact information. All of our emails are up here. And like I said, just find us on social media, LinkedIn. I think a few of us are on Twitter and other areas, but I think LinkedIn is probably the go-to here. And thank you to all the sponsors, Enterprise Bank, Spoke Marketing, Commercial Trevor, St. Louis Mates. It's been an honor to be your moderator today. And please join us. 9:15 is our next one, Managing Supply Chain and Uncertainty During COVID. So definitely anybody who's in the manufacturing space, managing supply chain, it's going to be a good one. We'll see you all next time. Thank you.